right, there has been a sudden escalation of violence along the Israeli-Gaza border. Israel's military launching a series of airstrikes against Hamas militants, leaving 3 Palestinians dead, including an 18-month-old baby. The attack comes after more than 150 rockets and mortars were fired from Gaza toward Israel. I want to go live to the Israel-Gaza border, bring in CNN's Oren Lieberman. And Oren, what's your sense of why now this escalation has actually occurred?
Phil, this region has been tense between Israel and Gaza for months now, and even if that tension hasn't bled into this specific escalation, it has created an environment where sudden escalations like this can happen. And that's exactly what we saw last night, when a number of rockets at this point, starting from last night, more than 150 rockets and mortars have been fired by Gazan militants led by Hamas there. Most landed in open areas. Some 24 were intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome aerial defense system. Some landed in populated villages along Gaza, sending some injured Israelis to the hospital. Meanwhile, a furious Israeli response, a widespread Israeli airstrikes carried out against what they say are Hamas military targets in Gaza. They say they've hit about 140 targets, and that includes weapons depots, headquarters, tunnels, tunnel manufacturing facilities, and more across some 20 different sites. It's worth noting that now, some 12 hours or more after this sharp escalation started, it still has not ended. We're hearing Israeli fighter jets above us. We know that red alerts are going off. Those are the rocket alarms in communities in Gaza south of us. So the question, what will bring about a de-escalation and cause both sides to step back? Because over the course of the last few months, we've seen the UN step in and Egypt step in to bring about that de-escalation. This all happened amid talk of a longer-term ceasefire. Right now, they're struggling to get even a short-term ceasefire. Phil?
Yeah, Oren Lieberman, everything just seems like it's on a knife's edge over there. Thank you very much, Oren.
All right, 51 minutes past the hour. Palestinian authorities say a pregnant woman and her 18-month-old child have been killed in a series of Israeli airstrikes on the Gaza Strip. The Israeli army said it was in response to rockets being fired into Israel. Let's take you straight to Yolande Knell, who is in Jerusalem for us on the escalating violence. Yolande, just take us through what's happened in the past 12 hours.
Well, even just in the last few hours, sirens have been continuing to sound in southern Israel, suggesting that there are still missiles that are being fired from the Gaza Strip. Now, we know, according to the Israeli military, that over 180 missiles, that's rockets and mortars, have been fired in this latest flare-up, which began early yesterday evening. And at the same time, they have hit Israeli fighter jets over 150 targets in Gaza. And we're hearing that they have targeted militants' tunnels, training grounds, sites used to manufacture, to store and to launch missiles, they say. Now, from Palestinian medical officials, we understand one Hamas militant was killed. Also, this Palestinian mother with her young daughter. Hamas says that her house took a direct hit. Several people have been injured in Gaza as well. On the Israeli side, we know that 2 rockets hit the border town of Sderot, and several people have been injured, at least one woman seriously. She's said to be a Thai worker. And there are several missiles, about 30 actually, that have been intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system. Others have landed in open areas, but things remain on a very high state of alert. We have had the UN Middle East envoy Nikolai Mladenov talking about his deep alarm at this escalation and calling on all sides to step back from the brink, in his words. We've also had warnings from the Israeli military, from the defense minister, saying that they're ready to do what needs to be done.
We're just seeing that statement now, Yolande, and it is a significant one from the UN, saying, "I'm deeply alarmed by the escalation of violence," and he continues to say as well that he is really concerned about the current situation and this flare-up. If the escalation is not contained, the situation, he says, can rapidly deteriorate with devastating consequences. How much does it feel at the moment that we are at that point, at that tipping point?
I mean, it certainly seems like another very dangerous moment. This is the 3rd serious flare-up that there has been on the Israel-Gaza border in just the last month. And the UN has been very involved each time in trying to de-escalate the situation. Now, actually, the UN's Special Envoy Nikolai Mladenov and the Egyptians have been trying to broker a longer-term ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. And in recent days, there were reports that progress had been made. Just last week, a very senior delegation of Hamas officials, some of them who had never been actually to Gaza before, were allowed to enter Gaza for discussions on this proposed deal. The Israeli Security Cabinet has already met to discuss it, and it will now be meeting again to discuss all of the latest developments.
Yolande, good to see you. Thanks for joining us from Jerusalem.